Lord, make me a channel of thy peace. That where there is hatred, I may bring love. That where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness. That where there is discord, I may bring harmony. That where there is error, I may bring truth. That where there is doubt, I may bring faith. That where there is despair, I may bring hope. That where there are shadows, I may bring light. That where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds, it is by forgiving that one is forgiven, it is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen. My name is Chuck. I'm a real grateful recovering alcoholic. It's an honor. I want to thank my friend Greg for being here, for asking me here. I want to thank my two friends from my home group, Joe and Jana, for supporting me over here. I want to thank y'all for being here. If you haven't figured by now, I not only do drugs, alcohol. I drink, I smoke crack, I shoot dope. That's what I do. I'm not here to offend anybody, but I was asked to tell my story. I'm a product of the '60s. When I was growing up, it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and I somewhere forgot the sex and the rock and roll, and I got involved in drugs. I'm not here to impress anybody, but hopefully I can leave an impression with y'all. That if I can sober up, everybody in this room can sober up. I'm no better than y'all. I'm no worse than y'all. I'm just like y'all. We all have our own journey. The book says our stories disclose in a general way what it used to be like, what happened, and what it's like now. I'm 72 years old. I'm a native Houstonian. I grew up in Southwest Houston. I have one mother, one father, and one little brother. And I was a daddy's boy, and my brother was a mama's boy. And I just kind of was left to do what I wanted. I got involved in sports. I got involved in Little League, but I was not very good at anything. I can tell you right now that I was a good starter in a lot of things, and I never finished anything. And I hope through this journey that y'all will listen to the similarities rather than the differences, because for a long time, I wasn't like y'all. I wasn't like y'all. When I was 15 years old, my dad committed suicide. He overdosed and died in my bed, in my bedroom. And that was Good Friday, and I remember that day like it was yesterday, because every time Good Friday rolls around, I remember my dad dying. And I can remember my mother looking at me and say, Chucky, I want you to be, you're the oldest, I want you to be in charge of the family. And what I heard my mother say was, Chucky, I want you to do what you damn well please. So I quit school and got a girl pregnant, and it was on. I don't come from a wealthy family. My dad worked and my mom was a stay-home mom. And I don't know about you people in here, but I grew up watching Leave It to Beaver, where Ward came home and kissed June, June kissed Wally, and Wally slapped around the beaver. And there was love on TV, and one thing I never had in my house was love. My mom and dad never told me they loved me. So I had a couple of resentments right off the bat before I sobered up. One, my dad committed suicide. Two, my mom and dad never told me they loved me, because I remember going to your house, sir, and your mom said, son, you be careful out there, I love you. And your dad would tell you the same thing. And I never had that love in my family. So I quit school. I'm a 10th grade dropout, and I started running the streets. And I'm a thief, and probably everything I say to y'all tonight, I stole from somebody else. But back in those days, I was stealing to be like y'all. All my life I've wanted to be a part of something, and inside I felt apart from. I was an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. Real high up here and then real low down there, and I always wanted to fit in, and I never fit in. I started stealing. I ride motorcycles. Half of them weren't mine, but I still rode them. I stole cars. And anybody from Houston back in the 60s or 70s? Okay. Well, y'all, I was in all the papers, man. Big time car thief, arrested. See, I stole Corvettes and Ferraris. And what was he laughing for? Did I say something funny? Okay, see, I start telling these stories, and before long, I'm believing what I'm saying. I stole Volkswagens, man. And I went to prison 3 years for stealing a stinking Volkswagen, man. And people would laugh at me, so I kind of make it like I was, Corvettes and Ferraris. And I went to prison for 3 years. And I can tell you that every 2 weeks my mom came to see me, and every 2 weeks she put $16 in my books, And every 2 weeks I'd ask her where my girlfriend was and where's my friends. Because in my life, my friends were the most important people in my life. I'm not only powerless over crack cocaine and alcohol, I'm also powerless over women. I've done some really stupid things trying to impress a girl. And when the relationship failed, I'd go out and use it because I couldn't come here and tell y'all about it because I'm afraid y'all are going to laugh at me. I need to back up a minute and tell you that when I woke up this morning, I rolled out of bed and I got on my knees like this, and I put my hands together, and I thank God for waking me up clean and sober. And I asked him to give me strength to do his will, not mine, and I asked him to allow me to be a vessel to come out here this afternoon and carry the message and not the mess. I read page 86 through 80 out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Starts off on awake and let us think about the 24 hours ahead. I read this every day. I read a page out of the 24-hour day book every day. I read a page out of Daily Reflections every day. I joined another fellowship a couple years ago, Al-Anon, and I read a page out of Courage to Change every day, man. And I think y'all had my sponsor out here last week. Who's the speaker last time? That's my sponsor. And I call my sponsor every day, man. He doesn't answer, but I call him, man, because I have the opportunity to work with guys now. And when they say, man, I really want what you have, then I say, well, this is what I do. And I'm not going to tell you what to do because when people told me what to do, I'd say, okay, I got this. And I go out and do what I wanted to do, man. I throw suggestions to people. My sponsor didn't tell me what to do. He showed me what he did. And if you've been in places where I've been, it's a whole lot easier when people show you what they're doing. Because I swore when I got out of prison the second time, I'm not going to answer to nobody. So anyway, that's what I do every day, man. I have a home group, the Heights group. This man, what's your name, sir?
Me?
Yes, sir. John told me if I didn't have a home group, I was homeless. And when I got here, I was homeless. So I have a home group. It's called the Heights Group. It's over at 2115 Lawrence. And I go there every day. These two friends of mine here came. We were there today for the noon meeting. At 7 a.m. I go to my Heights Group. And then at 10 o'clock I go across town to the 24-hour club. Some of y'all may have remember that on Harrisburg. And then at noon I go back to the Heights Group and support my family over there. See, y'all are my family whether you like it or not. So where am I going with this? So my dad died when I was 15 years old. I started running the streets. I started stealing. When I turned 17 years old, I went to prison for the first time for stealing cars. I got out of prison. I made promises to my mom. I promised I'll do this and I'll do that. And that lasted about a week, man. And I can lie with the best of y'all. I can lie so good I believe my own lies sometimes, And I guess I'm getting through to some of y'all because y'all nodding y'all's head. That's good for me because I was telling him I was at a treatment center out in Rochelle, Texas. It was a very high class, man. They had at night at 10 o'clock they had cookies. They baked cookies and gave them to all the clients. And they had young people there and some old people there. And they asked me to tell my story. And about halfway through the story, I saw some of these youngsters and their eyes got really big. And then the director came out from the back door and she said, and I walked up to her, yes, ma'am, and she said, you got to go. And I said, well, I'm not through telling my story. She said, you got to go. So I packed up my stuff and left. And like I said, man, I don't want to offend anybody, but this is my story. And if I didn't share this with you, I'd be lying. I went to prison twice for stealing cars. Same car, different model, same cars. And the second time I got out of prison, I swore I'd never steal another car. But I didn't stop my old criminal behavior. I got out of prison the second time in 1975, and I had friends in prison that had wives and girlfriends, and I said, man, that's what I need. I need a wife, man. I was raised in Bel Air, went to Bel Air High School for a year, and I met a girl at West University. It's a nice neighborhood now, but back in the day it was old houses. And I met this girl, man. I fell in love with her, just like I did all the other women. And she had a little girl, and we got married, and I moved into one of her dad's rent houses. And you guys, if you're thinking about leaving out here, and hook up with a girl that's got a place, man. Even better than get with a refrigerator and a bed, because it's no fun sleeping on a floor or a couch. And that's what I did. I met this girl and we got married, and I had no skills. I looked in the Chronicle today on the way over here, and they still are not looking for car thieves. So if you're thinking about getting that as a side hustle, don't do it. But her dad worked at a warehouse, and I started driving a forklift for her dad. And that marriage lasted about 4 months. And because I'm not making enough money, and it's never enough money, because I can have a pocket full of cash, it's never enough. I started selling a little marijuana. And she came home from work one day, and I had this pile of weed on the table, and she said, "What's this?" I said, "What does it look like?" She said, "It looks like marijuana to me." I said, "That's right, it's marijuana." She said, "What's it doing in my daddy's house?" I said, I'm selling it so we can have a little better income. And I want to tell you, and I'll look you in the eye, that, man, she got so out of hand, I slapped the dog out of her and threw her out of the house. But that's a lie, man. I've never put a hand on a woman in my life. I wasn't raised to do that. But she threw me out of the house. She threw my stuff out of the house and me out of the house. And so I moved back into Mama's house. And I don't know about you big bad gentlemen here, but my mom was my saving grace, man. When my life got out of hand, unmanageable, is what you told me, I'd take my dirty clothes and I'd go to my mom's house and I'd put them on her washing machine, and she'd let me sleep on her couch. And 2 or 3 days later, when I came to and I was fixing to leave, she'd have a plate of food for me. She'd have all my clothes washed, dried, and folded. And I could go back out there and try it one more time, man. And she never said anything to me because she loved her son. Anyway, I have some friends that I did time with, and one of them told me about a company called Used Tool. And it was the largest oil tool company in the world, founded by a man named Howard Hughes. And I went out there and put out an application. I got the job. So in 1975, 76, I started working at Used Tool. One of the things that I knew how to do was lie. When they asked if you ever been convicted of a felony, I put no. And I got the job, man. And I was hired in as a factory trainee, and I went driving a forklift. In 1978, I went to the electrical department, became an apprentice electrician. And I worked at Used Tool from 1975, 76 to 1983. And then I continued my entrepreneurship. I started selling drugs and I'm not selling to you guys, and I'm not selling to nobody's kids. I'm selling to my coworkers because I know that every Friday we got paid. And that was my justification. Joe said, justification, rationalization, procrastination, and masturbation, you know what they all have in common? You know what, we got ladies here, but you know what, we'll talk after the meeting. I met a girl at Used Tool in Pasadena. I made the geographical move from West University to Pasadena, and this gal had a little girl, and she lived in one of her mama's rent houses. I know the drill. Where's the bed? Where's the refrigerator? And it just, insanity. I started with me at an early age, man. And this girl liked to do drugs, and we did drugs, and we partied. And all my life I've wanted to be a part of something, and inside I felt apart from. Back in the day, they had a country western bar out in Pasadena called Gillies. And I don't know how to dance, so I got me a pair of cowboy boots with little gold tips on the end. I got me some Wrangler jeans, got them pressed real tight, got me a big country western belt with a buckle, and me and my wife started boot scooting booty. But I never felt apart from, man. Marriage lasted about a year, and there again, I slapped her around and threw it. No, that's a lie. She threw me out of the house. And what my mind told me, because I came here with a drug and alcohol problem, and what I found is my alcohol's not my problem, and drugs isn't my problem, and she's not my problem. My problem is my thinking. And once I quit drinking, if I don't treat my thinking, I'm going back to drinking, man. And that's a fact, because I work with some gentlemen, and they'll back me up on that, man. My problem centers in my brain, and if I have any brain left, then I need to start working on that too. So I bought me a house on the north side of Houston in 1983. And nice house, man. It's got a yard in the front and the back, 2-car garage, fireplace, and it had burglar bars on it. And the reason why I bought a house with burglar bars, would you tell them, ma'am, why I bought the house with burglar bars? What? Because I sold drugs. She wanted to see if y'all were listening. No, I was a thief too. Come on, leave me alone. And so that's, I have it going on. In my mind, I've got it going on, man. And I'm really making money at the tool company, and I can see my future. You know, my plan was I'm going to buy some property, and I'm going to build these A-frame. Have you ever read that book, Helter Skelter? Okay, where Charles Manson had these. Well, mine, I wasn't going to kill anybody, but I was going to build these little A-frame houses. Joe was going to help me, and I was going to have all my druggie friends live in these little houses, you know, and we're just going to get high and live happily ever after. And I think I seen some of y'all on that list I had when I came in here. But anyway, that's not important now. I had, my mother said, you got champagne taste with a beer pocketbook. And that's how, all my life, man, I've been a dreamer. 1983, I'm in this big 4-bedroom house with my girlfriend and her 2 girls, and I heard something at the front door, and I went to the front door and turned on the porch light, and all I saw was use of narcotics. And they ripped my burglar bar off and kicked in the door and arrested me for possession with intent to sell cocaine. And my career at the used tool was over. And all the money that I saved to buy those houses went to paying an attorney, so I could share my experience that money will buy you out of stuff. You know, I'm not going to share my opinion or my advice. I'm going to share my experience because I know that some of y'all have good intentions. But if I start telling y'all stuff that I would have, should have done, somebody could go out and do something stupid, you know? So anyway, I lost a job at the tool company, and I started working for a little man named Rudy V Electric. And he brought me here when Waterfront Joe, when this was just a little place in the front. And I got to meet Waterfront Joe, and Rudy became my grand sponsor. But I worked for him for a little while, and then I went to the light company. And a friend of mine from prison said, man, you can come over here and get a job here. And I filled out an application, and here was this question again: have you ever been convicted of a felony? And I put no. I had that job for 8.5 years at Used Tool, but and I knew what I did wrong. I sold drugs, so I'll never steal cars again. I'll never sell drugs again. And I hired in at the light company, and I worked out there 10 years. And got another relationship with a girl, and every one of my relationships with women have been drug and alcohol related. Every one of them, man. And when the relationship failed for whatever reason, I'd go out and use, because I didn't have the come in here and ask y'all, what am I doing wrong, man? Because I wasn't raised to ask another man for help. And let me get a drink real quick. Is anybody going to Vancouver? Okay. That's that. Okay, game's over. Let's go. No. So anyway, so I worked at the light company for 10 years, and I don't know about you people, but I can walk in a room full of people and feel all alone. And I don't know if that's the disease of alcoholism. I don't know if that's self-centeredness. I don't know if it's I don't know what it is, but that's how I was. And my girlfriend / wife had left me, and I'm in this big 4-bedroom house all by myself. And that feeling of loneliness set in. And so I get in my car and I'm driving. And you ever seen these? Can you read that? No, this is more like. Now you're talking. Winter, yeah. So anyway, I was filled up with these, you know. And I'm not drunk, and I'm out cruising the streets, and I get pulled over by HPD, and they yank me out of the car, and they put me in their car, and they take me to jail, and they arrest me for possession. They arrest me for DWI, and they took me out, and I blew a 0-0, and I'm thinking, man, I'm out of here. And they said, no, you're under the influence of something. And I called my mom that night or that next morning. I remember her like it was yesterday. Hey, Mom, what's going on? Who is it? Hey, Mom, it's Chuck. What's going on? Chucky, you know what time it is? She used to call me Chucky. Listen, they're playing our song. I said, Mom, can you do me a favor? And my mother's, like I said, she's been my savior all my life. I said, could you call my boss and tell him that I'm sick? And she called my boss, and I got me a reprieve, and 2 days later I got out of jail, and I went to work. And my boss was waiting for me. He said, you feeling better? I said, OJ, I need to get honest with you about something. He said, what is it? I said, I Not sick, I was in jail. So they suspended me pending further investigation. And 2 weeks later, they called me back in the office, and I had tables like this. And I walked in, and my boss and his boss were at that end of the table, and these two people in the middle I recognized from when I hired in with the light company. They're from the employment office. And hey man, thanks for showing up. Anyways, they had this folder, and they opened the folder up, and they said, "Oh, we want to ask you a question." I said, "Sure, what is it?" And they said, "It says here that you've never been convicted of a crime." And my back's against the wall, so they know that I lied. So they come out with another lie. Isn't that what we do? I said, "Yeah, my dad was killed in a bad car wreck. And my mother's crippled. And so I had to support my mother and my brother. So I had to drive." And, it got so crazy. The guy said, "Oh, whoa." And they closed the file. And he said, "Get out of here." And I said, "Well, where are we going?" He said, "You're going out the gate." And my career fell away. So I've had 2 career jobs. God knows how many I can't remember. All behind drinking and drugging. And I know how to beat these cases, man. I beat one before, so I got me another good attorney, and I paid him some money, and I said, I want to beat this case because what I wanted, my plan is, it's going to be Chuck sliding power, not you like I'm suing the crap out of it, They can't do this to me. And he said, we're going to see because it was New Year's Eve, and I think they got it on film. So we go to court, and they postponed it, go to court, and they postponed it. And I had this check from the light company. My entire savings is like $35,000. And they didn't cash that check, and every time we go to court, I take that check in front of the face and say, "You see how much this is?" I said, I'll sign it over to you. I just have to beat this case. So we went to court one day, he said, "Man, I'm going to go in there and ask to see the film." And he came back out, and he said, I can't beat the case. I said, "You see, this is $35,000. He said, when you got out your car, you fell down. And they went over and picked you up and took you to the police car and they let you go and you fell down. I cannot convince one person, one on 12, if you were under the influence of something. So I had to plead guilty and put this thing. I don't know if y'all have one of these yet, but these are pretty neat. This is you got one of these yet? Smart Start. You blowing hum? Yeah, you got one. Yeah. Anyway, crap, man. And I had to do that for a year, man. And I'm pissed off, man. I'm pissed off. How could they do this to me? My boss used to tell me, "Man, you're hell when you're well, but you're sick a lot." Because I would get paid on Friday and I'd miss Monday. And then I'd get paid on Friday and miss Monday and Tuesday. It just got a common recurrence here. So what does a good drug addict do who's angry? I get me a big spoon, give me some powder, and I start shooting cocaine. Remember that? Yeah. Yes, you remember. And I was in this big 4-bedroom house all by myself. And when I started that up, man, I had 4 bedrooms. I had a girl in every bedroom, and all my old rowdy friends came back. And it was like nothing had stopped, man. And that lasted for about a month. It doesn't, I tell you what, when you got everybody in the spoon and give me this and give me that, it doesn't take long, man. That $35,000 is gone. I was in a treatment. I grew up at Extended Aftercare over there off North Shepherd. They're closed now. And I met a man named Marvin Barnes. They called him Stormin' Marvin or something like that. He was a basketball player out of Philadelphia. Big old tall black dude, man. And I told him about that $35,000 that I shot up, and he looked at me and said, "Man," he said, "I shot millions of dollars up, so I kind of have to keep that low key now." But we all have to go through what we have to go through, man. We all have to go through what we have to go through. So we're going to round the turn, okay? I've taken you through the problem, what I thought was my problem. The tip of the iceberg, my final thing that I did with my mom, I have a brother that shits golden eggs, and I shit all over myself. And he was on my 4-step too. My brother's been married one time, and he has one wife. She's a doctor, he's a pharmacist, and they've got 5 beautiful children. And they live in Palestine, Texas. And My brother had moved out. I bought him a house in Palestine, and my mother's in this house by herself. She lives in Southwest Houston. And she called me one day. She said, Chucky, I need you to come over and take care of my dog. Could you do that? Because I'm going to be in the hospital for a few days. And by this time, I had had acquainted myself with a crack dealer, and I was in this guy for about $800, and I couldn't go back to my house. And so I go to my mom's house, and I take her mail in and feed the dog. And one day, her mail came in, and I got her bank statement. And when my dad died, she put her life savings in an account with her name, my name, and my brother's name, because my mom's very selfless. And I swear as I'm standing here, my intentions were, I'm going to get $800 out of her account, and I'm going to go pay this guy, and I'll have it back. You know, I promise I'll pay it back. And I go to the bank, and you ever go to sign a check for $800, and it turns into $1,000? What's $200? And she knows it all, man. $1,000, man. And I go call this guy and bring him to my house, and I pay him that $800 before. Anybody here smoke crack? Honestly, good for y'all, man. Don't start, man, because before he walked out the door, I said, man, can I get another 20? And before I knew it, I was back in for another $800, man. And before I finally came out of that coma, I had stole almost $5,000 from my mother's account. And I get a call about a week later, and it's my mom, and she wants me to pick her up from the hospital and take her home. And I don't know what to do, man. So I hide. And for 2 weeks, my mom calls me, and I don't answer the phone. And one day, the phone rang, and I called, and I answered, and she said, Chucky? I said, yes, Mom. How are you doing? And she said, Chucky, where you been? I said, oh, Mom, I've been working. Really? I said, yeah, I'm working 7/12s, man, and I know I should call you, and something about picking you up or something, but, man, I've been busy. And she's crying, man. My mother's crying. And I said, what are you crying for, Mom? And she said, I got my bank statement yesterday, and it says here that my money's gone out of my account. And then for the first time that I'm aware of in my life, I was honest with my mom. And she said, Chucky, do you know anything about it? And I said, yes, ma'am, I do. And she said, well, what happened to it? I said, Mom, I got a drug. She said, what? I said, I got a drug. She said, what'd you say? I said, I got a drug problem. My mother, she passed away in 2004, and she went through the depression. She went from being the housewife to my dad, who took his own life, to being taking care of her two kids. One that went to college and is a shining example of being well raised, and another one that can't put two nickels together and get a dime out of it. And so what my mother did, she sold her house in Houston, Texas, and she's lived in since 1950, and she moved to Palestine with my brother. And I remember them driving by my house in a U-Haul, and she gave me a check for $75. And she said, Chucky, this is the last time I can help you. And when I looked out the door, my last ray of hope was going up 45 North. And what am I going to do now, man? I checked into HRC, Houston Recovery Campus, in September of '96. They suggested I get a sponsor. That's what they T-shirts when we played Little League. We had a sponsor. They said, no, not that kind of sponsor. A sponsor that will take you through the steps. They suggested I maybe after I get that 30 days or 90 days, that I further and go into a halfway house. And this fine-tuned state of mind up here, halfway house, isn't that for ex-convicts? So I conveniently forgot I've been in prison twice. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. And I went back to my house, and my intentions were, I'm going to get a job. I still have some jewelry and some tools in the pawn shop. I can get all this out, maybe take a little hit, but I'll be back good, just as good as new. And those are my intentions, man. And I'm in this big 4-bedroom house all by myself. And the thought came up, well, I wonder what that old dope guy's doing again. And I called him up, and he came over, and what I thought was my bottom was not my bottom. Once I start, I can't stop, man. Once I start, I can't stop. March 3rd of 1997. Can you see this? I surrendered, man. I didn't give up. I didn't quit, man. I surrendered, man. And I finally asked God to please help me. And I went back to HRC, and they had another program there, and I stayed there for 90 days. And they suggested I get a sponsor, and I got a sponsor, man. And they suggested I get a big book, and I had to steal one because I came in there with flip-flops, a dirty pair of shorts, and a T-shirt. That's all I had in my name, man. And a 4-bedroom house with no electricity and no water. And I started getting involved there. And it's getting close to 90 days, and they said, we're going to put you in a van and take you around Houston because back in the 90s they had a lot of halfway houses. So we went to a place called Better Way over off of Caroline. You remember that? Better Way. I don't remember the name of it. It was a man and a woman that operated that place. And it was like being in prison, man. They all ate in the same chow hall, and they were smoking. You know, and I couldn't see that man over the, oh yeah, what's your name, sir?
William.
William. Is that William? I can see, yeah, that's William, because it was so thick with smoke, man, you know? And I went to Houston Aftercare, and they didn't even have the decency to come out and shake my hand because obviously I had arrived and they didn't know it. And then I went to Extended Aftercare, and you know, back when I was involved with that last woman, we went to LaBranch Street group over there at St. Joseph's on a Saturday morning, and I swear all the other times I went to meetings, I never heard anything that clicked with me. And I went there that Saturday morning, and something this man shared with me touched my heart. And after the meeting was over, I walked out and I shook his hand, and I thanked him. And he gave me a card. He said, call me sometime, but don't call me if you're loaded. I don't want his card. I want her card. I want your number. I don't want no guy's phone number. I still have a little game in me, you know. And when we pulled up to Extended Aftercare in that van, the man that walked out of that office to give us a tour, I recognized that was that man from St. Joseph's Hospital, man. And I believed in God all my life, but God never did nothing for me. And when that man walked out of the office, I thought this is where I need to be, man. And I checked in there, and they have 5 houses. They had a very strong alumni association. I completed the 90 days. I started working for Rudy, my grand sponsor, and he had a little electrical business. And I'm a light company hand, man. I'm $20, $30 an hour. And I get a paycheck from Rudy on Friday, and I looked at it and I said, damn, man, this guy, he can't add because I did the math. This can't be right. So the next Friday I get a check, and it's something's wrong here, man. And I did the math. This something's going to pay me $8 an hour, man. And that's when I learned the value of a dollar and realized it ain't about the money, man. Sure, we want to all make money. Sure, I want to get a job at the refinery. Sure, I want a brand new Ford truck. I want all that stuff, man. But some of us have had some of that stuff before. And what did it get us? You know, I go into a lot of prisons. I don't share this with everybody, but a little over a year ago, I got a call from Huntsville, and they said they wanted to give me Craig Abbott wanted to give me an award, and so I drove up to Huntsville, and he gave me a coin, and I'll show it to you after the meeting. It's not that damn important, but this is my life, man. You know, all my life I've wanted to be a part of something. Inside I felt apart from, and this program and you people and God has given me an opportunity to be a part of something, man. You know, I stayed at EAI for almost 9 months. I still had this old 4-bedroom house, man, and it was had no carpet, holes in the wall. It was a crack house is what it was. And I didn't want to move back there, but some of y'all share your experience about when you move back home and you move back in a house. And so I got one of the guys from the house that we had a little relationship, not that kind of relationship, you know, sponsee. We, see, my head's still screwed up crazy, you know. And I asked him to move in with me. And we'd take one room at a time. And I got 3 guys living over there now. Rudy said, you ought to start having meetings over at the house. So every Tuesday night for about 15 years, we've had meetings at my house. We call it the Rag Picker Group. And then finally, they don't want to go to meetings no more. 2 of these guys don't even go to meetings anymore. So that's them. I'm not the AA police. I want to be in a relationship with a woman. You know, to me, that's what makes me happy, useful, and whole. I was raised to be with a woman. And I don't know what to do. And my sponsor told me I'm not gonna be your marriage counselor. I'm not gonna be your job counselor. I'm gonna take you through the steps. And so I got a year sobriety because you told me build a relationship with God for the first year and practice some patience, which I had none. And I got a year sobriety, and I'm going to out here to Pam Lynchner to do the orientation. I'm riding with a gal, and she says, "You got a girlfriend yet?" I said, "No." But you know how we can be cool. "Yeah, but I'm looking, you know." And she said, "Well, good luck." I ain't looking for nothing, man, you know. And then that's when I realized I got a fear of women, man. I don't even know how to talk to a woman. My opening line to a woman was, "You get high?" And then the second question is, "You want to get high?" And I didn't give two shits about what her name was or what she did. I just wanted to do, because that's what, and I can't say that's the way I was raised, but that's the way I was raised. And I wanted a lasting relationship with a woman. And so my wife, who I've been married to for 26 years now, her and I smoked crack together. And she came over to my house and walked in the den, in the hallway, in the bedroom, in the bathroom, and she'll tell you. She said, "I walked in the bathroom, and this guy is on his knees smoking crack." And she said, "I swear, I came by 2 weeks later, walked in the hallway, in the bedroom, in the bathroom, and this son was going still on his knees smoking crack." She never smoked crack after that, and she just happened to be my sponsor's sister-in-law. I had no car. To me, to go on a date with a woman, we're not going to ride the Metro to Stop and Go, and we're going to split a cherry Coke. I want to take her to a restaurant, because that's what I was raised to do. And so I asked my sponsor if we could go out double date. He said, "Sure." So the first time we go out, my sponsor and his wife, which is my wife's sister, girlfriend at the time, we go to the restaurant, we pull up in the driveway, and I open the door for her because I know how to. I know how to be a gentleman, and I open the door for her, and I walk to the front door, and I want to kiss her goodnight, man, because that's my MO. We're kissing on the first night, and she's probably passed out the second night, but it doesn't matter, because I get what I want. And I can't say nothing. It's like I'm at the front door, and I swallow my tongue, and I go, I can't. Maybe you can. So my mom died in 2004. I was able to make amends to my mom before she died. What I did was a love deal. I met my mom at the airport, my brother. And I don't know how you guys do your man, but with y'all, hey, I screwed y'all over. I need to make amends because I talked to you first. I don't make amends to a group of people because I was always, I look at you and I look down. I so get to feel shame. And I asked my mom if I could talk to her. And I said, Mom, I just want to let you know that I took your time for you. If there's anything you can do. And she said, well, I just want you to be so rich. I gave her $500. And she said, Mom, you got to take this. And I asked my mom if I could call her every Sunday. She said, sure. So the very next Sunday, I called my mom. At my brother's house. I said, Mom, how you doing? She said, fine. How are you? Fine. Wife, fine. How are you? Fine. Everybody fine. And I said, can I ask you a question? She said, sure. I said, Mom, I think that's what I live with. From what I love. And I called my mom every Sunday from 1997 to 2004. I knew the time and before I could get out of my mouth, she said, Chuck, I'm so proud of you. So we can be the first person. We can get the sick. If I'm waiting on Joe, I'm still waiting. She's in the ground, you know. So if I want action change to happen, then I have to be changed. You know what I'm saying? I really died in '99. I told myself when he was alive, I was going to work for him. I'm making $13 an hour when Rudy died. I'm in big time money now. And in January of 2000, I went back to the union. I'm a union worker. And they said, well, where you been for the last 3 or 4 years? I can't lie, man. I've lost 2 jobs. I lied. I said, well, I had a little alcohol problem. I didn't lie. I drink alcohol, but I didn't tell them about the practice. Some people will not accept professional practice. Some people won't use it. Anyway, I finally got a laugh at some. So I went to work for the union for a little while, for a year and a half. I got laid off. And then I went to the city, and I started with the city. I was in the city. And, I made one mistake when I was working there. They wanted me to work overtime all the time. And I said, I can't work this week. Why not? Because I have some commitments. She said, what do you have today? I said, ma'am, I'm a discovered alcoholic. I go to prison. And from then on, they all loved me. I said, hey, what's that drink? This is my kid. They don't understand. My mother didn't understand. She called me one time and said, Chucky, I raised you and Joe the same. I didn't give him anything more than you. And I don't know why you turned out the way you did. And he turned out so good. And I said, hold on. I said, I know what I've done. And I'm doing the best I can to rectify it. Because every time I call you, you throw me under the bus and tell me what I should have, what could have done. And I'm not going to call you. And she listened to me because she never said another word about it. Man, I don't, I can tell you that my sponsor and I went to Hawaii. Anybody been to Hawaii? There you go. You got to go, man. You got to go. There's A in Hawaii. There are, yeah. Okay, we're almost through. But yeah, man, it's life is a kick, man. It really is. I thought, what am I going to do when I retire? Because I watch people. One of my coworkers, when he retired, I asked him, where's Bubba? Well, Bubba, man. I own one TV and I don't count. So that told me I need to step up my game before I search. So I have a sponsor that has a sponsor. And my sponsor showed me what he did. I have the opportunity to sponsor him. And, this is a wonderful gift. It really is. So, to wrap this thing up, I kind of skipped out a lot because I really don't like y'all. And so I got this hole in my gut. Okay? Bless you. I got a hole in my gut, man. And in this hole, I try to fill it up with cocaine and Quaaludes and Jim Beam. That was my favorite. But some of y'all want something else. We got Southern Comfort, and we got the old clear stuff too. If you want that, that's fine. And then because it's never enough. Hold on, I'm coming. I tried to fill it up with a woman. I know none of y'all have done this. A blonde, a redhead, a brunette, it didn't matter, man. But I got to fill this hole. And I never could fill the hole, man. Something always happened. So, when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and y'all told me to surrender, I want to thank y'all for putting up with me for this hour. I like to laugh, you know, and God knows I'm not laughing at you, man. If I can't laugh at myself, I'm missing the biggest joke in the room. And yes, I am going to Vancouver, Canada in July. And yes, I am a convicted felon. And I was told you can't go, but I was also told you'll never amount to anything and you'll never get out of prison. I think we're all miracles in this room, man. But don't give up, man. I don't care how bad it is. I met a man named Searcy Whaley, Dallas, Texas. He died. He was 93 years old. He had 57 years sobriety. A man named Tom Iverson from North Carolina. Back in 1950, he killed 2 teenagers. He was in town drunk, got in a car and ran over and killed them. He did 15 years in prison, got out and became the warden of the prison and the director of prisons for North Carolina. One real quick story, and then I'll turn it back over to y'all. I go to the Walls Unit. It's where they execute them in Huntsville. I've been doing that for 28 years. I met a man there 16 years ago. His name was John Winnie. Brand new inmate. You can tell they're new because they got white clothes, really white clothes. And he came to the A meeting. I just stuck my hand out. I said, hi, my name is Chuck. What's yours? He said, my name is John Winnie. I said, what you here for, John? He said, I got 30 ag. 30 ag means he's going to have to do 15 years before he comes up on parole. He's driving drunk in a school zone. Got off the bus. He ran over and killed her. 30 years ag, 15 years before he comes up for parole. And I said, man, John, that's terrible. And I can't share experience. It's never happened to me. And he was doing really well in the meetings. And so we asked him, we have an anniversary every year in the chapel. And I asked him, we asked him if he would speak 2 years after he was there, and he said, sure. So I go in the chapel that day, and he's up at the podium, and he's walking, and he's obviously bothered about something. And as I'm walking up from the door, I look behind me, and there's an old man and old woman in the corner. And I waved to them, and they waved to me, and I walked up to John. I said, John, you okay? And he said, I'm really worried, man. I'm nervous. I said, why are you worried? You're in God's house, man. This is what it's all about, building a relationship with God. He said, no, man, I'm not worried about y'all. That man and woman in the back, that's the mother and father of the girl I killed. I said, John, I don't know what to tell you, man. I really don't know what to tell you. So he did a really good job, man. He shared his story, and we're fixing to close. And the man in the back raised his hand. He said, I'd like to say something to y'all. Him and his wife walked up to the podium and said, my name is such and such, and this is my wife, and that man killed my daughter. Right out in front of everybody, God. And it got really quiet, man, really quiet. And I didn't know if this guy was going to pull out a gun. I didn't know what he was going to do. And he looked at John. He said, John, I just want to let you know that God's forgiving you, and we've forgiven you, and we hope and pray that you can forgive yourself. And that was 16 years ago, 15 years ago. And I've been watching John. He finally left the Walls. He's out in West Texas. And he called me last October. And he said, Chuck, this is John Winnie. I said, hey, John, what's going on? He said, man, I'm being released today. I said, man, that's great. Who's picking you up? His mom's there that I'd never met before. His new wife, and his new wife's name's not Bubba. It's a woman. He married a woman. Because that's my first thing. He married a guy in prison, you know. We can tell who the guy. Anyway, and he said, and Bob and Carol are here. And I said, well, who's Bob and Carol? Who's Bob and Carol? The parents of that girl, man. For the last 17 years, they've been following him, walking with him, going from unit to unit, man. I know this program works. If you're waiting for the sky to open up and the lightning bolt come down, keep waiting, man. But a miracle today in my life, we're all in here sober. We're not talking about, we're not breaking anybody's car. We're having a good time. Thank you for letting me share. Thank you very much.
Let me get this out of the way.
Yeah. You didn't open it up, did you?
Not me. Once again, hey, let's give a round of applause for Chuck. Oh, all right, we've come to the end of the hour, and Greg is going to read the 9-step promises.